Hey y'all, it's Callie from Love Cooks. Thanks so much for checking out this video. As some of you know, we're cooking from the Nashville cookbook, which I kind of already shared with you guys. And today's recipe is called Slim Jim Chili. Now don't be surprised, the first time I read this recipe, I literally thought it was made with Slim Jims, as in beef jerky, but it's not. It's actually referred to in the cookbook as a dieter's chili. So basically what the recipe involves is lean ground beef instead of like your traditional fattier beef. What's really cool though about this particular recipe is I got to meet with Walnut Hills Farm, which actually meets out at the Nashville Farmers Market every Saturday morning. They're out there doing incredible beef, and we have their lean beef in this recipe. The wild thing about this beef is I have never had ground beef that's actually dry aged. So they aged this beef for a good 3 weeks, and also it's 95.5, which means it's 95% beef and only 5% fat, which is really, really actually amazing. I don't think I've ever been to the grocery store and been able to just find a 95.5 of ground beef. So we're getting to use their beef, which I'm really stoked about. We're also using some local produce from Howell Mills Farm out at the farmer's market too. Shout out to you guys. Thanks so much for hooking us up with some yummy onions and green peppers. All right, y'all, so the first step in this recipe is getting all your veggies ready, because you know if you're making a healthy chili, you gotta throw some veggies in there. So we're gonna start off with chopping our celery. We need about 2 cups of celery here. And a tip with celery, actually, the first thing you wanna do when you chop it is spin it around so you get this knobby end, and go ahead and just cut that right off. Easy peasy. Go ahead and break some up into celery sticks. And then also, so celery leaves, for chili, you wanna go and take these off, but you can use them as a garnish in a Bloody Mary. You can chop them up, add them to a salad. They're actually pretty delicious. So for this recipe, we're gonna remove these, but you can use them for other things too. They say the best cooks know how to use the end bits. You know what I'm talking about? Like the leaves, the roots, the stems of the broccoli. They say the best cooks know how to do that. So I'm trying to figure that out. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and chop this celery up right here. Also, I don't know if y'all can see this knife that I'm using over here, but this knife was a gift to me from my amazing husband, and it's from a guy who makes these incredible Damascus steel knives. It's called Smith Knives. It's my favorite knife in the world, and when Love Cooks gets super huge and famous, I'm gonna get him to do like a whole line of knives for me, because these things are amazing. They even have a little pink handle on there for Love Cooks, which I really love. Good job, guys. I think we have probably about a cup there. I'm gonna keep on chopping. You know, one of the best things about this chili recipe too is, I don't know if you guys grow up like me, which is in the South, there's a tradition called the hunting camp, where if you have a father who likes to shoot wild game, he will take you. Now, if you can imagine me as a 7th grader, I had hot rollers in my hair on the way to the hunting camp, because you know the cute boys are there and you gotta be looking good. So Dad would take me down to the hunting camp, and we would just spend the day together. We would hunt or fish. The worst though was turkey hunting, because for turkey hunting, you have to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and that does not make for good hair. And wearing a hat to keep your head warm. Not too pretty. But anyway, we would go to the hunting camp. We would hunt really till probably like 10 in the morning, and inevitably somebody's making some sort of stew on the stove when you get back inside. And one of the favorite things that I noticed that they made was chili. And the cool thing about this recipe is, because chili, I mean, you throw a bunch of veggies in, you saute them, you add your beef, you add your tomato sauce and whatever other ingredients you like to put in there. This recipe reminds me a lot of that. I think because of the tomato sauce was real big in the 70s. It makes me think of that. And I'm not gonna tell you how long ago it was that I was in the 7th grade and going to the hunting camp, but we're just gonna pretend like it was like just a few short years behind me. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and chop the rest of the celery just in case, so we have enough. That's another thing to do. If you had a rough day, just get some celery and chop away. It's kind of therapeutic. All right, celery down. Got all that ready to go? So all we're gonna do is take this celery and we're gonna transition it over to the stovetop. I'll meet you there, and we're gonna get all this stuff sauteed and nice and brown and get our chili simmering. All right, y'all, see you there. All right, guys, so now it is time to get our chili cooking. And I'm gonna do the chili today in a Dutch oven. I think Dutch ovens are awesome to do chili in. That ceramic coating gets for an even browning on your meat. It's a good idea. All right, so we're gonna start out browning our meat and our onions first. And a little tip about lean ground beef. So like I said before, this is 95.5, so it's pretty lean. Cook it on a little bit lower temperature than you normally would for like an 85-15 ground beef or something a little bit fattier, because this meat cooks a little more quickly. Also, I went ahead and put a little bit of vegetable oil in here before it started browning the meat. Because it's leaner, it just makes it easier to stir around. And that way you don't get all that burnt beef on the bottom of your chili pan. All right, so we're gonna get this good and browned. Let's cook down just a tad. Also, like we showed earlier, this chili has celery in it, which I think is pretty delicious. It gives it a nice crunch. And since this chili is more of an old school style chili, which means it's gonna cook for about an hour, kind of simmer on the stove, you don't have to cook the beef all the way through in the first stage. You really can just kind of, you know, piece it up with your spoon so that there's not huge chunks. And then the beef is gonna cook through all the way through as it simmers and infuse all of your vegetables and your tomato sauce and your beans with that yummy beefy flavor. So I feel like this is at a good point. Oh, another great thing about lean ground beef is you really don't have to drain it because there's not much fat that's released, so it does really pretty well in chili. Okay, so next step is we're gonna add all the rest of our ingredients. So I'm gonna start with about a half a cup of chopped green bell pepper. Awesome. Then about 2 cups of the celery that we did earlier. Then we're gonna add a can of red kidney beans, undrained. And also when I use beans, like canned beans in recipes, I really like to try and do the organic because they just taste better. So if you have that option, do that. Then we have a large can of tomato sauce. I think it's about 15 ounces is what it has on the can. And a cup of water. We're gonna add about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Bring all those flavors out with that bit of salt. And then the last spice we're gonna add is chili powder. In this recipe, there's about 1 tablespoon of chili powder. I love chili powder. And I actually learned recently that chili powder isn't just chilies, it's actually ground chilies mixed with garlic, cumin, oregano. Some recipes for chili powder have salt in them. So if chili powder is your main spice ingredient in a soup or a chili, you wanna make sure it's pretty high quality. So I really like Penzeys spices, choose whatever you like, but get a good old tablespoon of chili powder in there. Stir that around. And then our last ingredient we're gonna add is a bay leaf. Put one of these in here. And then we're just gonna kind of leave this on medium heat till we get a little bit of a bubble, then turn it down to low and let it simmer uncovered for at least an hour. You can go 2 if you like. So this is the perfect recipe. It's super easy. You can make a big old pot, invite people over, feed them dinner, love them well. That's what it's all about. All right, you guys, so we're gonna let this simmer for about an hour and then serve it right up. All right, y'all, there you have it, Slim Jim chili. We got local beef in there, lots of veggies, and it is full of 1976 charm. I think you're gonna love it. From our kitchen to yours, Love Cooks.